Gordon has served 9 years on the board of directors of Religious Science International and is currently president and CEO. And he received his doctorate in religious science in 2006. Dr. Kenn Gordon.
Thank you, Dr. Rogers. Boy, there's been some interesting things said here. Most everything gets covered one way or another. My address is really about sustaining or maintaining food and water in the world around us, and it's something that I have a little bit of experience with, having been a farmer for 12 years before I entered the ministry. And I really took a look at it from a point of view of trying to figure out where the world fits in and how it fits in and what consciousness does in order to allow us to be able to move forward with it. And there's two basic laws or two basic principles that I want to address today. Principle number one is what Dr. Michael addressed, which is the field of plenitude. And our concept and our belief in New Thought that there is never anything that is lacking in form, it is always lacking in mind and the consciousness behind it. The second one is that there are no problems. What there are opportunities to discover a solution in our life to be able to move forward into it. I remember one of our great teachers, Raymond Charles Barker, telling me once that when he had a problem in life, what he would do is he would go into his den and he would close the door and he would sit down and he would say, "Barker, you need a new idea." He wouldn't dwell on the form. He would recognize and know that it began within the consciousness of who he is. And in this world that is really made up of the individual belief and consciousness of each and every one of us, the sum total of our belief, and we have a micro and a macro. We have a world consciousness and we have an individual consciousness. And I share with you openly and honestly that when it comes to food and water in the world today, we do not need more food, we do not need more water. What we need is a new idea.
That's right.
And the idea that we need is to recognize and know that there is an abundance that is already available for us, that it is already there. As a farmer, I witnessed and saw and grew, as a matter of fact, 10 acres of onions. 10 acres of onions created 1 million pounds. It happens in 7 weeks. There is no shortage of food in our world. None. I watched and witnessed corporate farmers who had 640 acres of produce, and they would wait until the market, the day they were going to harvest that, they would check the market. If the market said that the money was down, what they would do is come in with 6 bottom plows and put it under the ground. I want you to do the math. 640 versus 10. It's not that they're bad people. When I went and talked to them, I said, you know, we could feed the world with this. And their response was, you know, that would be a great idea, but A, it would skew the market so we couldn't afford to farm. And B is, what would happen is we'd have to distribute it, and we have no way of transporting and distributing it. The issue is not food, the issue is money. And so I say, well, that's interesting. I enter into the church business. Is that what it is?
Yeah.
Okay. And so I enter into ministry, and when I enter into ministry, I have these congregants who deal with water. And what they tell me is that there are a multitude of ways of being able to determine and establish water for the world. They can recycle it, they can desalinate it, they can take it from the air. All of the technology, all of the human resources are there. And the problem is not water, the problem is money. Now I'll tell you, when I entered into this teaching, the great discovery that I had was when I heard about the law of plenitude, and I heard about the idea that there was always just a solution and that the problem is done in mind. I don't know about you, but I struggled with that because I looked around, I looked at the world, and I saw that there were starving people, and I saw that there were people without water, I saw that there were people without education, I saw that there were people who weren't getting medical care, and I said, how can I possibly justify this with this belief system that I look at? And then I remembered and realized that what I need to go into is my own quiet den of my own being, and I need to say, Gordon, you need a bigger idea. And the bigger idea is this. The bigger idea is we don't have a problem with water. We don't have a problem with food. We have a problem with money. Then I recognize and see the meltdown on Wall Street. I see $5, $6, $7 trillion being put into it. I recognize and witness us going to war to fight, and I see $1 trillion a year for every little war that's out there. And I begin to realize that we don't have a problem with food, we don't have a problem with water, we don't have a problem with money. We have a problem with an idea that somehow or other we can't do it any other way. And I recognize and I know that what we need as a world is a bigger idea. And the bigger idea we need to have is an idea that there is enough for everybody. And that we only hang on to the old ideas for the last 2,000 or 3,000 years because we're slow. And what we need to do is wake up and move forward into it. Because here's the truth. If you go to any country or any place in the world today, and you gather together the population, and you put 1 million people in one particular area, and you ask that 1 million people in that particular area whether they think people should do without water, do without food, do without education, do without medical care, that children should die because of that, there is not a single person who would be in favor of that. The reality is that in the so-called democratic societies that we live in, is that we have a small idea, and we don't expand that idea, and we hang on to the old one because it's comfortable. That's right. And this is not a philosophy of comfort. No. This is a philosophy of evolution and of spirit, of growing back into whence we came, which is the mind of God. Right. And that mind is not limited, it is not bound, it is not small, it is not short. There is no lack. There is nothing to be frightened of. What we need in the world today is a bigger idea. We need to have the will and the intention to live the life that we really want to live and quit falling down to an old archaic way of looking at the world that does not work anymore. That is evolution. Thank you.